All right, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Just give me a thumbs up. Yep, great. All right, welcome back to the Creative Year Ever. It is 11 o'clock Central Time, Chicago, and you know what that means? It's time for the power, unlocking your power of creative focus, which is my Creative Year Ever presentation that I've been hacking together for several years now, and I think it's turned into something somewhat cohesive. So I'm really happy that you're here to join us. Join me today to do this, and let me just pull up the presentation. And thank you all who have joined as a VIP. If you are watching the Facebook live stream, we welcome you. We thank you for joining us on the live stream. But if you'd like to become a VIP attendee, you can join us in the Zoom production stage. We have about over 20 people here in the production stage, which allows you to connect with other VIP attendees and get a copy of the Creative Year Ever workbook right here, the Creative Year Ever workbook, which is mailed to you after the event. You can actually download the digital copy of this, just the first half of it, on the website for free. But if you want the full activation journal, the full systematic process for unlocking your creativity all year long, then you're going to need the journal. And the journal is available on the website. It's also available on Amazon.com if you'd like to just purchase the journal directly from Amazon. But I'm offering a much better deal. You can order the VIP ticket for the event. You get access to the live VIP stage, production stage as we have going on right now. We also get access to the recordings after the event. If you become a VIP, a day or two after the event, I'm going to offer the recordings that you can watch afterwards, only for people who have the special login to watch it. And then also you get a copy of the journal mailed to you in the mail. So it's a much better deal than buying it directly on Amazon. But if you prefer to use Amazon, use your Prime points or whatever, it's also available on Amazon.com. Okay, wow. Let me check the chat here. Thank you, Jessica, for posting all those great links. Thank you. Let's go and open up the presentation. Oh, and let me just do a little tease. If you watch the whole thing here, I'm going to be giving away a door prize. If you watch the session, I'm going to be drawing a number for then this door prize is going to be people who are watching the Facebook stream, because the VIP people are already in here. But I'm going to be giving away a VIP ticket today. If you're watching on the Facebook live stream, be sure to watch all the way through, and please consider bringing in some friends. I'm going to give away a VIP package to Creative Year Ever Virtual Summit if you watch it through. But more importantly, let's get right to the presentation here. All right. I do have to say, next year I'd like to have someone be the technical person. It's hard to do this all yourself. Uh, let's see here. Share screen. All right, Creative Year Ever. Hey, let's make this your most creative year ever. Before we get too deep into this, I want to talk about what is creativity. I know I've been saying it all weekend long, and as I mentioned, every time you hear me say the word creativity, be sure to put a fun emoji in the chat if you can, just to make it fun. Use your favorite emoji. Just try not to use the poo emoji, but thank you. Anyways, basically, what's creativity? Creativity is a lot of things. I know for me, growing up, I always assumed that creativity was like the ability to draw, or the ability to sing, or the ability to play an instrument. And those are all definitely solid creativity. Like, it takes a lot of creativity to learn how to play the guitar. I know I've been trying to learn how to play the guitar for like 20 years now. In fact, I just turned to Heather, my wife, last night and said, "Hey, let's learn to play the guitar." And she said she'd forgotten how to play, so she wouldn't be able to teach me anymore. But there's a lot of creativity that goes into that. There's a lot of practice that goes into creativity. But I think that what a lot of us don't understand is that creativity is really the economy that we live in. We are in the creative economy, and unfortunately, many of us had um, not a tough 2020. Maybe many of us are dealt with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of issues, obviously with COVID-19. Many of us either lost a source of income or was reduced had a source of income reduced this year. And I don't my heart and soul goes out to those people who are dealing directly with it. But one thing that I know that has helped me through this entire process this year is knowing that my creativity is unlimited, and no matter what happens, I'm going to be up. It's probably for the best. It's probably truly for the best, because at the end of it all, the universe is going to put me in and I use universe a lot. Universe could be God, or it could be whoever you divine worship being, if you will. To me it is God, but for other people it could be um, whoever, whatever you want it to be. It could be anything you'd like. But for me, the universe is something that I know it was meant to be. And no matter what, I have so many crazy ideas that no matter what happens, one of these crazy ideas will probably work. But in order for me to make that happen, I have to constantly sort of test new ideas, decide what ideas are good ideas. Like sometimes I have to take good ideas and you know what I think is a good idea may not necessarily be a good idea. I've had plenty of those ideas where I put it out there and the world didn't really respond to it positively, right? So I have to keep moving along and find the idea that makes the most sense. And we're going to have plenty of presenters this weekend who are going to talk about different types of idea, sifting idea sharing. But most importantly, creativity is the constant source of improvement, right? I think for us, in order to constantly improve our situation, constantly improve ourself, we need to use creativity to do that. It's problem solving, right? Creativity is problem solving. And what's most useful for employers right now? There are entire industries, especially for example, the convention business, one that I'm directly related with. The convention business is devastated right now, unfortunately, due to COVID-19. But it's going to take the right people with the right type of creative ideas and problem solving to help in entire industries, not just careers or jobs, but entire industries to turn around and make things happen for the better, for the future. I think a lot of us see on our resume, when you apply for a job, almost every job you ever applied for had that one line at the very bottom that says other ideas or other needs as they come, right? Other job related tasks as needed. And I think what that really means is other ideas or other creative needs that we need you to do, right? I know for a lot of us, you start a job and maybe you didn't realize you need to learn how to use, Sarah, if you don't mind, Salesforce, right? So before you know it, you either hire Sarah to help you learn how to use Salesforce, or you take the time to figure out how to do it, right? And I think that that requires us to use a massive amount of creativity to learn something new. So definitely something to consider. But really, when it comes to creativity as improvement, right? If you're using creativity to leverage improvement for yourself or your organization or for any endeavor that you have going on, improvement requires the technical aspect of creating goals, right? Goals are really what goals and creativity go hand in hand. And I think a lot of us don't always think of creativity as necessarily something that needs goals. But the truth is, if you have a systematic process around setting goals to do creativity, to unlock your creativity every single day, you're going to find yourself in a way better situation than if you don't have a plan. So what are good goals then? What are good goals? And to me, um, good goals are goals that are articulated and clearly prioritized, right? These are definitely things that you need to consider. And for me, I find that there's basically three types of goals: transformational goals, acceleration goals. I'm going to explain what these are in a minute. Transformation goals, acceleration goals, and stretch goals. And these are goals that I have sort of learned over reading Billy Gillian books. I'm an avid reader now. I never was actually growing up, but a couple of years ago I started reading and listening to a lot of audiobooks, and I kind of went on a sort of a soul or self-discovery process where I've listened to some of the greatest teachers in the world, if you will, and I've been putting a lot of this together and realizing that I've been doing. The good news is it's been affirming some of the stuff that I've been doing my entire life that I never really realized was something that was actually you should be doing. But also I realized that a lot of things I wasn't doing properly too, and that I could improve. And that's really where I came up with these goals. I know stretch goals and acceleration goals, I believe, came from the authors Chip and Dan Heath, and I can't remember which book exactly it was, but they do a lot of fantastic books. They're brothers who've written a million books, and definitely something to look at. But basically, for my rudimentary drawing here, guys. But this is how the best way I can convey this. Right, these goals are. This was normally just for me to read to help explain this to you guys, but I really felt it was better just to share this rudimentary drawing with you. But ultimately, there's three goals. Transformational goals are goals that you need to do in order to get off the ground. Right. That could be like, hey, I want to start running every day. Well, one day you're going to have to wake up and literally start running or doing something that's going to get jogging or walking or doing something that's going to get you off the ground. That's a transformational goal, right? Then when you start running, let's say you literally run around the house once. Then you're gonna have to go from running around the house once to setting a goal to running around the house twice, right? Or 3 times or 20 times. Those are acceleration goals. Those are the goals that take you up and down in your process and going from, hey, I want to swim 2 laps to swimming 30 laps. And now that's my next goal, right? And finally, you have what's called stretch goals. And stretch goals I love because they make you feel good in some ways. But stretch goals are, hey, I want to um, like this year I want to make $100,000 selling something online in my business online, right? For me, that would be a big stretch. I don't necessarily know how the heck I'm going to even get to that point. Like I may not have the products and services in line to sell $100,000 in 2021, but I source in the universe, and the universe will tell me what I need to do in order to make that in place. Now, granted, if I sold half of that, that would be pretty great for me too, right? But I'm just going the stretch goal you set for yourself, knowing that, hey, I don't really know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to figure it out this year, and this is going to take me there. So, knowing that there's 3 types of goals: transformational, acceleration, and stretch goals, are things you should consider when setting goals for 2021. And Stephanie Ganzi is going to be talking more about goals in the next session, so I don't want to belabor this too much. But ultimately, one of the problems I have is not so much goals, but task management. Task management is a huge thing in terms of unleashing your creativity. But given that we are in the world of creative marketing, the creative economy, where we have to create content, we have to write, we have to produce stuff, right? But also maybe we have a boss who needs us to do different things, or maybe we have a family who has different goals for us. And a lot of us, our tasks and goal management looks kind of like the scatter focus here, right? This is kind of what I call splinter focus, where you have a million different things that you want to do. I mentioned in Melissa's thing that I have lots of crazy ideas, and sometimes I like to prioritize those ideas differently, right? Sometimes I think the idea is so good, I got to do it right now. Or sometimes I think the idea is good, but it could wait till later, right? But the problem is if you don't have a systematic approach for managing your tasks and goals, you're going to end up like this. You're going to end up really going nowhere in no particular direction. But now if you go and you have a more of a plan, right, where you have projects that have actionable tasks and individual goals and milestones, we call them, then you are in a linear direction to where you want to go, right, to the end of the year. Let's just say the project 1, project 2, and project 3 indicated by the bigger circles, that could be quarters, right? That could be uh, Q1 is the end of March 1st, right? The end of Q2 is July 1st, and the end of third quarter is what, October 1st, right? Is the last quarter, the last 3 months of the year. So think about in terms of breaking down your goals. I try to break them down into quarters or 3 months at a time or 12 weeks at a time. But ultimately think about how you're going to look at. I know that we like to set resolutions and set goals for the year at this time, and a lot of times we like to say, hey, at the end of the year I want to be X, Y, and Z, which I love. That could be a stretch goal, right? That could be a stretch goal to the end of the year. But also, let's face it, this is why most of us fail at resolutions, is that we have a goal for the end of the year, but like that's like too far in advance to even think about that far. I recommend setting something a little bit more accountable for yourself and setting something for 3 months in advance, if you will. So think about your tasks and prioritizing them appropriately. Now, so what are you going to accomplish in 12 weeks, right? You don't want to think too far in advance, but you don't want to think too narrowly either. So basically, this is really where I think unlocking your creative focus this year, or making 2021 your most creative year ever, really requires you to sort of have 3 different things to consider. One, why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you want what you want? Why do you want to lose weight, or why do you want to um, make $100,000, or why do you want to help small businesses unleash their best self? I know someone posted. There's lots of reasons why, and I think it's important that you mark that down, you write that down, you create that mantra, or you create that reason why you want to do what you're doing, because that's really driving your vision. This is going to help you filter out what's important to you and what's not important to you. If you know exactly why you're doing what you're doing, then it should be pretty easy for you to understand what's the most important to you and what are you most passionate about. The next sort of loop of this is then, what's your strategy for getting there? This is kind of where you need to think about milestones. Okay, if I set up an e-commerce store because I want to sell stuff online, then when is that going to be done? Is that going to be done in 6 months? Is that going to be done in 12 months? At what point do you need to decide yourself when to stop doing what you're doing too? And this is really the strategy that's going to get there. Let's say you want to set up an e-commerce store, but you don't necessarily know how to do it yourself. You're going to have to spend some time researching, or you're going to have to spend some time figuring out how to set that up. So having accountability for yourself and having a understanding of what exactly is are you able to do this goal is definitely an important part of the process too. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that it may take a little bit longer. So setting reasonable expectations for yourself too is definitely a good way to make it happen at this time of year. And then finally, tasks, right? Tasks and doing. A lot of us like to set many like individual tasks for ourselves. If you look at my task management tool, there's like about 30 different things I have to do right now. Some of them are for myself, some of them are for clients or friends or family members, some of them are for things I don't probably need to be doing, but I have them on there. Right? You have to learn to delegate and delete, and I think that a lot of us, we set a lot of goals for ourselves. Some of them we can't get out of. Obviously, many of us need a paycheck. Many of us need to work for other people, to sustain a living. I'm right there with you, and therefore you have tasks by other people that are high priority, that are important. You have to put them into your tasks list. But those of you who want to do something a little bit more, want to create content or create something for yourself, you're going to have to prioritize the stuff that you want to do. Maybe that's write a blog post, right? Maybe that's create video content. Maybe that's launch a podcast. You're going to have to prioritize those tasks first for yourself. Otherwise, they're never going to happen. And there's a great book by Brian Tracy called "Eat That Frog," and "Eat That Frog" is the concept is you have to do what you have to do the hardest things first, right? So that could be getting up in the morning and earlier, right? That could be getting up in the morning at 6 or 7 and writing a blog post, or that could be getting up in the morning and going for your morning run. And I know that I struggle with some of these myself, so I'm not saying I have all the answers, but what I do know is that when I got up every morning to write my book, the book got done. So you have to really prioritize and figure out what you want to do and where you're going to put it into your schedule. The truth is that you have only so much energy every day. And what I realized is that I've taken the time to sit down and figure out, okay, in the morning, as much as I don't consider myself a morning person, I actually am very much more creative in the morning. Mentally, I'm sharper in the morning. I'm able to write better in the morning. I'm able to write faster in the morning. A lot of us sometimes, like I used to blog in the evening, right? And that's a very dangerous time to blog in the evening because I'm usually tired. I'm maybe not as sharp as I was, and it's very easy to just get distracted in the evening and not want to do what you want to do. It's really easy to kind of say, "Oh, I'll just do it tomorrow," kind of thing. So setting an intentional routine and setting an intentional time to be your most creative self is highly, highly important. And finally, you have to do baby steps, right? Baby steps at a time. Sometimes it literally is like, hey, I'm going to get up and write one sentence. I actually just finished a fantastic book by BJ Frog. He's a Stanford professor, and his book is called Tiny Habits. And he's been cited a million times in a million different books, but he actually wrote his own book finally. And it's basically, he's like, you got to start small. Like he recommends getting up and flossing one tooth until you get to the point where you want to floss all your teeth, right? And celebrating and really celebrating that win. Like if you floss one tooth, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, "You are awesome." Oh, fist pump. That's why I got the fist pump there. So really celebrating those small wins because those small wins add up. And let's face it, you're not going to get up and run a marathon in one day. You're going to have to take, just like we talked with Melissa, you're going to have to eat that elephant one bite at a time. So at the end of the day, it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. So plot small actionable steps that are going to get yourself there. One of the things that I know it's very difficult to do, but if you do it right, it can really help, is when you create tasks for yourself, write very, very explicit tasks, like really write out what you're going to do. If it's a task that requires more than a few minutes to do, if it's a task that only requires a few minutes, just do it right now. You don't even write a task for it. But if it's something that's going to say, hey, I need to write a blog post about X, Y, and Z, be very specific with what you're doing and why. Because I know for me, if I write a task that says write a blog, well, that's not actionable enough for me. Yeah, every day I wake up when I want to write a blog post. But the truth is, it needs to say write a blog post about X, about this topic, and make sure it's posted by this date. It needs to be much more actionable. And those little footsteps, those little baby steps will help you get into a groove and help you build a routine that will help really unlock new avenues or new channels in your mind and in the world universe that will help you achieve great things this year for sure. So, one of the things I've done, as I mentioned, I've read a ton of books over the last couple of years, and I think that I've really taken some of the best and put it into a strategy for really maximizing your mindset and maximizing your most creative self. And one of the things that I realized is that in order to be creative, you really have to make space in your life for creativity, for intentional creativity. And that could be getting up early in the morning and having time just for writing or just for doing something creative that's going to help your business or help you accelerate to the next level. Or legitimately spending time on the weekends doing something that's just for you and that is very creative. I know we talk about, I'm in a writing group, and I have to give them a shout out, the IWOC, I'm sorry, Independent Writers of Chicago. I think Laura's here. There's a shout out to Laura. Laura's the president. Alicia's here. I know she's a member too. I got to give a shout out to IWOC. And I know a lot of times that we talk about when you're a writer, you have to do intentional acts of creativity in order to get that right. It's hard to be a writer without experiencing life in a way that's going to give you new ideas. So going to an art museum or going to a play or doing something that is consuming, right, where you consume other acts of high creativity is a great way to help build sort of ideas and intentional space in your mind for being more creative yourself. So you have to go out and do things. Sometimes you can't just be rubber to the road, fingers to the keyboard. You have to be open-minded. You have to create that intentional space. And to me, there's a systematic process for doing that, which when I fire on all six cylinders and I do all the stuff, I know that I'm an unstoppable force. When I fall off my own routine, which happens, that's life, but when I fall off my own routine, that's when things go awry. So I'm going to give you a couple principles that I like to live by that I think helps me be a more creative person. And I definitely know can help you be a more creative person as well. Number one, you really want to review your daily routine, to enhance your productivity. This to me includes journaling, and I'm going to get into journaling here in a second. It's hard to stay on if you've never journaled before, or you are an avid journaler. I'm sure you can agree that keeping a journal routine can be very difficult. It seems easy, but it's actually kind of hard to do it every day. So I see a no. Sarah, do you journal a lot?
No, I'm saying it does not seem easy.
Yeah, it's not easy. It isn't. To me, a good journal doesn't have to be. I know there are some people who advocate writing a physical journal like this. I don't do a physical journal. I use a journal app called Day One, and it's for the Mac, but it's Day One, and it's also on the iPhone. And I do like what's called bullet journaling style. So I have 3 or 4 bullet points that I answer myself every evening and then every morning as well. My morning journal, which I'm going to get into in a little bit, is a little bit different. My morning journal is more like a task and productivity thing, whereas my evening journal is more like how did the day go and how did the universe deliver for me, which I'm going to get more into that as we go into it. But first and foremost, review your routine. For me, um, when I started tracking my time, I used to have to, way back in the day when I worked in a PR agency, we had to track our time for client billing, right? So we literally had, we'd have to submit hours that we worked on and I hated that. I hated it, right? Let's face it, like you don't spend 8 hours a day working your nose to the grindstone. And when you have to submit your hours to your boss, you want to make it look like you've worked really hard all day long, right? But let's face it, you can't physically or mentally do that. But so the idea of tracking my time when I don't have to didn't really seem pleasing to me. But when I actually started to buck up and do it, I realized that how much time you actually waste doing stuff you don't need to be doing. And what I realized is that I have certain sort of flows during the day that where I am more productive. You know, from basically around 9:30, depending on when I start my day, but from 9:30 to like 11, 12 is really that's where I get the most stuff done every single day, right? And in the afternoon, there's maybe another bump or two depending on how ambitious I am. From like 3 to 4 to 5, that's when I have my next sort of like productivity chunk, if you will. And then the evening is what I call bonus time, right? The evening I may or may not work on stuff, but at the end of the day, you really need to kind of look at your routine and figure out where are you're most productive, and then protect that space. So if you are your most active and your mind is at top of your day at 9:30 or 7:30 or 11:30, then protect that time. Close your door if you can. Turn off your phone. Do what you can to help protect that time, because at the end of the day, that is you. If you waste that time, it's like taking your bank account and just sending money out the door. If you don't protect that time, you're never going to get to a point where you're going to accomplish something you want to accomplish, especially since we live in this creative economy where the people who seem to be winning are the ones who are creating lots of great content, video content, audio content, written content, and creating online informational products like courses, books, and stuff like that. So I definitely, and the good news is it doesn't take a lot of resources to do this stuff. It just really takes your time and a little bit of creativity to make it happen. So that's when you have to realize the 80-20 Pareto principle. This is another sort of business concept that has been, if any business book you ever read typically talks about 80-20. So in no way am I saying this is something that I came up with. Actually, I believe the author is Richard Cook, I believe. But ultimately, what it means is that 20% of your effort, or I'm sorry, 20% of your results comes from 80. I always get this wrong. 80% of your results come from 20% of your effort. Sorry, that's the way it is. So, for example, if you were to look at all the things you did in one day, I bet you only about 3 or 4 tasks that you did that day actually are going to result in stuff that's going to move the needle for you, or stuff that is what I call your high impact tasks. So you definitely want to look at. We do a lot of things. We go and we make coffee for ourselves, or we go and we leave a review for a restaurant that we had dinner at last night on Google. That's a good thing to do. I'm sure that business owner, if you leave them a good review, is going to be happy you did that. But is that review really going to help you? No, it's not. You could be taking the time to create something that actually is going to drive results for your business. So really look at what are you doing, and take if you have 10 tasks for the day, I bet you the top three are the ones who actually take the top three. They're really going to help you move the needle. Are really going to help you build your business. Maybe it's writing your book. Maybe it's writing a draft of your book or a chapter of your book. Maybe it's writing a blog post, doing something like that. But really look at what look at the effort you're putting into it and figuring out what is really driving results for you. And then focus on those when you can. The next principle I like to mention is when to say no. This is a big one, especially if you're a freelancer or you're part of an agency. It can sometimes be hard to say no, and this is something I struggle with all the time. I see Joan is snickering. Joan knows that I have a hard time saying no. But basically, I get requests for different projects and different things all the time, and sometimes even though there maybe is a monetary attachment to it, I have to just say, no, it's not a good fit for me. It's not something I can do, because at the end of the day, your creativity or your energy is like a cell phone battery, right? You only have so much every single day. And if you go and commit yourself to a project, I know for me, last Christmas, or maybe this was actually 2 Christmases ago, or I should say holidays, um, someone wanted me to do a website right before the end of the year. And I didn't really want to do the website before the end of the year, because this is the time of year where I like to sit down and focus and recharge, recalibrate, and plan my new year and actually do creative year effort, right? So I took the website project on because it was a decent project and I felt like I needed to. I said yes when I really should have said probably no. And what happened? I completely drained my creativity and I wasn't able to work on any of my own stuff. So that one project where, yes, I made a little bit of money, but ultimately it set me back a year in terms of getting Creative Year Ever launched and live. So it's something, or more along than what it was that in that year, that iteration. So really know when to say no and really say no. I mean, and have a sort of filter for when you receive requests, whatever those requests may be. Understand that, is this something that I want to do? Is this something that if I do this, am I okay with setting my own priorities aside to do this? And or is it something that if I do it, what is the ultimate outcome from doing it? Is it sometimes I say yes because there's just a great financial or opportunity on the other side. But sometimes I say no just because it's just not going to fit into what I want to do and where I find passion to do it, right? So really knowing when to say no. The next thing is when to double down, right? When to know when what you're doing is what you should be doing, 10xing it. Obviously, for me, Creative Year Ever is something I typically enjoy, and I feel like I'm getting good results. So maybe this is where I should double down, and this is where I should focus and say no to these types of projects, and heck yes to these types of projects. I'm going to say this. I know we're on the live stream, but there are plenty of times where uh, sometimes it's either a hell yes or a hell no, and you have to sit down on everything that comes to you, ideas or clients or requests from other people. It's when to say heck yes or heck no, and if it's a heck yes, then go all in. If it's a heck no, we already talked about that, so at the end of the day, really sit down and think about it. The next thing I want to mention is creating more than you consume. And this is very, very difficult in the world that we live in. Many of us were brought up in that consumption is a great thing. Television watching, video game playing, we grew up, most of us grew up in a consumption friendly society, right? We are a consumption friendly society. We've been brought up that way. But the truth is, and consumption could be a lot of things. It could be reading a book too. Books are great, but at the end of the day, if you're not executing, you're not acting upon the stuff that you want to create, then it's never going to happen, right? So to me, yes, I could watch, you know, season 4 of House Hunters Hawaiian Islands, but no offense to House Hunter Hawaiian Islands, but that D-list TV show doesn't necessarily, I don't need to do that. I could be spending time creating content. I could be spending time prospecting. I could be spending time doing stuff that's going to bring high value to me. And really knowing when to say no to consumption and saying heck yes to creation, content creation, or book creation, or any type of however you want to create as a professional. That's where you want to really focus on creating more than you consume. The next thing is being receptive, and this is where I struggle with this a lot myself. Many years is being unreceptive to things, thinking that um, it's either white or black, or they have an ulterior motive or something like that. And really, it took me time to kind of get away from that mentality. I actually went to school for journalism, and journalism is a great, great field. I have much admiration for people who are journalists, but the problem with journalism is that they're always trying to get you. It's a gotcha type mentality, and they're always trying to be cynical in terms of figuring out what's wrong with this current situation. They're always looking for the bad and the good, or the good and the bad. And I respect that from journalists. But for me, it put me on a really bad mindset when I came out of school. That I was always looking for the bad or trying to uncover the true um, depths of things. And the reality is it does no good. Also, I think the news in general is so fear porn these days. I don't like watching the news as much. I actually avoid watching the news as much as I can, because it really just it's the truth is that a lot of it is news that there's nothing I can't control. COVID cases. I can control myself by not leaving the house. I can control myself by being safe. But unfortunately, there are just a lot of things I can't control. Elections. I used to love politics. Honestly, unless it's a local election, it's really hard to control politics. It seems that they have a system that's really hard to control. So I don't really know if it's something that I want to spend my emotional time consuming, when in reality, I should be focusing on something that I can control, such as content creation, such as video content, such as helping others as I can. So being receptive and opening your mind to other thoughts and other people who are doing well, maybe doing better than you, and understanding that you can leverage what they do and be inspired by people ahead of you, versus being jealous or regretful or yeah, despising people who are maybe ahead of you in the game of life. So that's one thing that I think that you need to be more receptive, and here are some techniques for doing that. One is tapping into you. Understanding that you are in control of your life, understand that you are ultimately the one responsible for what happens to you, is definitely a way to tap into it, and tapping into your mind, tapping into how you respond to different things. One of the greatest things that I heard the other day was that, I'm in charge of my emotions, and that emotions come and emotions go, much like the weather. You know, You could wake up one day and it's storming, and you could wake up another day and it's a beautiful clear day, right? Your emotions are like the weather, and that you have the ultimate ability to kind of change the weather as you want. So definitely tapping in yourself and understanding what that means. Visualizing, visualizing how you are, visualizing where you want to go. Visual, and I don't necessarily like the idea of visualizing yourself with a pile of money. I don't think that's necessarily the great way to go. I think there's advantages to that, but what I like to do is visualize and affirm the tasks and the actions that are going to get you there, right? So maybe it's not visualizing so much yourself with 100 blog posts. Maybe it's visualizing yourself writing every single day. You know, that could be a great way to visualize how you're going to get there. And take the time to visualize the big picture. The truth is, visualizing the big picture of where you want to be at the very end, maybe that is a big pile of money at the end of your rainbow. That's great. Visualize that, but understand that you're not there. So you've got a lot you got to do in order to get there. And that visualizing, I think the tasks that are going to get you there are just as important as visualizing the big picture. Journaling, as I mentioned, writing down what's really on your mind, journaling in a way that's positively affirming what you're doing. I know for when I started journaling, I used to write down what the bad things were for the day, but that's not, I don't, who cares about what happened with the bad things? Let's focus on what we're going to change and write them positively, right? So instead of saying, Scott, I ate too much sugar, I drank too much of this, or too much of that. You suck, you suck, you suck. Don't get that negative mindset out of you and focus on the positive. And when I journal, I write, what am I going to do tomorrow to make this, to turn it around better, right? So like I'm 100% committed to, and I'll write it out. I'm 100% committed to waking up at 6 a.m. and writing in my blog, writing in my manuscript or something like that, and writing it positively, not saying what's negative, but being positive about what I'm going to do. And that's going to help wire your brain to be more receptive to doing what you actually need to do for your creativity. Affirmations, I sort of mentioned with visualizations, but affirming that, the universe will deliver and that I'm 100% committed to doing what I'm doing. I think one of the people who I admire and really, really like, his name is Hal Elrod. He is the author of the book, The Miracle Morning, and he talks a lot about affirmations in his books, but ultimately affirming what he recommends. So, and I agree, is affirming that you are committed to doing what you're doing. Not so much I am. Some people think of affirmations and they think I am wealthy or I am rich or I am skinny or whatever. The truth is, you're not. So, what I like to recommend, and I'm open to anyone who wants to talk about this, but I like to affirm that I am committed to doing what I'm doing and that I'm waking up every day and making it happen. Because to me, that's a much more realistic approach to getting to where I want to go. And looking at it, not so much. The problem is if you look at it too big picture, then you're not necessarily tactical enough to get to where you want to be right now, where you're at tomorrow. Where do you want to be in 6 weeks, not 6 months or 6 years? So focusing on the quarter system or the 12 weeks is, I think, a good, and using affirmations to get you to that goal. Fortunately, Melissa walked us through a great mindfulness practice and guided meditation, but ultimately spending moments of intention in silence or meditation or prayer is definitely one way to sort of rewire your brain. For me, meditation is very difficult to do regularly, just like journaling. But when I do I'm like, my brain is like ready to go. I'm much more receptive. I'm much more creative. And if you can keep a meditation habit, it's definitely something to consider, and work with a coach, work with someone who can maybe help you unleash your meditation practice for sure. And finally, this is really why we're here today, is talking with people who get it. We have lots of different people that we encounter in our lives, from spouses to siblings to parents to coworkers. The truth is, when you're looking to do something great, you're looking to do something out of the ordinary, then it really helps when you talk to people who are either ahead of you or in the same boat as you. And I think that's really where it's good to talk to either a coach or to an accountability partner who gets what you're trying to do, because they're going to help keep you on track, and they're going to really provide actionable advice that makes the most sense for you when you want to do it. And that's exactly why I created Creative Year Ever, is to help people find accountability buddies or coaches that can help get them where they want to go. So definitely be sure to check out the group, our Facebook group. If you're in the, a lot of you are in the Facebook group right now, and I appreciate you are there. But those of you who are on the VIP live chat, feel free to join our Facebook group too, the Power of Creative Focus on Facebook. And basically, post in there after this weekend, or even during this weekend, post in there who you're looking for. If you're looking for somebody who's a writer and they're local and you want to find a local accountability buddy, post it in the group. Post what you're looking for, and I'm sure someone will answer if they are able to, or they're interested in being someone with similar accountability goals as you. Okay, journaling. I could use a journaling buddy, but that's a whole nother story. So journaling is something that I enjoy doing. I have sort of templates that I use that are on my computer, and here are some templates. Feel free to take a screenshot of this if you want. But basically, these are some of the prompts that I've given myself in the evening. Basically, what are some of the amazing things that happened today? I write a couple of bullet points about what was good today. I think it's good to have sort of a gratitude and remind yourself that every single day there are many good things that happen. You know, sometimes just smelling a good cup of coffee could be all you need, or having a great cup of coffee could be all you need. But when you keep that positive mentality, that positive mindset, it's going to help you unlock a lot of different things throughout your day. What emotions did I experience? You know, sometimes you experience jealousy, sometimes you experience negative mindset type emotions, and just it sometimes it takes a second to understand where you're at, and maybe then how do you can you turn that into fueling it positively to fuel your creativity. So you know, maybe I had a limiting belief this day, right? When I wrote it down, but instead of writing out down the negative, I write down, you know, I have unlimited creativity, and my creativity is what makes me a unique person in this world, right? And I will sort of write that in my journal to help me make the next day better. I always like to say too, don't put two bad days together. You know, sometimes waking up in the morning or being productive or eating or whatever, it's like, you know, you don't want to lose momentum. And what I keep telling myself all the time is just try not to put two bad days together. Because when you start putting two bad days together, that's when you fall off the bandwagon, right? But when you try to keep, you know, okay, so maybe you know, Christmas I got a little crazy, I went a little overboard with cookies, but you know what? Just try not to put two bad days together, kind of thing, and hopefully that will keep myself on track and on the right path to continuing for self improvement. And then ultimately, how could I? When I say how could I make the day today better? That's where it's like, okay, I don't say I should have woke up earlier or I should have not eaten this. This is where I say I'm 100% committed to waking up at 6 a.m. to write in my journal, or I'm 100% committed to doing this because by doing this, I'm going to be happy that I finish X, Y, and Z. I just try to write these in a very positive and very uplifting way for myself to remind me that I get joy from this stuff. And I want to make sure that I spark that joy every single time I write in my journal. And then finally, what am I going to do tomorrow to advance my goals? And these are the goals that I want to do. That could be writing my book, that could be creating a YouTube video, that could be reaching out to someone who needs help. These are the things that I'm going to do that are aligned to my true priorities. And that's the evening. And on the morning is a little different. The morning is more like, what am I going to do today? What are my goals? Usually I write down my three biggest goals for the month or for the week. Usually it's usually they are related to health, wealth, and love. All right, so I have a goal for health, I have a goal for wealth, and I have a goal for my relationships, right? And ultimately, I write down those three goals every single day. I think it's great to write them down every single day because that's going to help keep you aligned with your true mission. And then finally, I write down the tasks, the high impact tasks that I need to do, aka work on my website, aka write my journal, not journal writing, write in my blog, do things that I need to do in order to achieve the goals that I set for myself. And then finally, I have the day of fires, which are like the stuff that I have to do for other people or the stuff that comes up that derails me, right? I kind of like to keep a little bit of track about what is really in my way, because if I see a lot of roadblockers that come up every single day, then I need to work into figuring out how can I remove that or mitigate those roadblocks. And that's what the day of fires is. And then finally, versus evening, home, and low energy, these are things that I want to do, like maybe read a book or research something, research a particular topic. I want to do these, but they don't need to happen during my 10 a.m., my most creative part of the day. These can happen in the evening when I don't have as much energy and I can just want to relax and do stuff that doesn't need a lot of my most important timing. And then finally, notes. Like I like to write down any notes that I might come up, or maybe I had an idea. I can write a note for tomorrow, and stuff that I didn't accomplish that day, I can put to backlog, and then that goes into tomorrow or in the evening when I had to write out, refigure it out. And if I see stuff on the backlog a lot, then obviously again I have to figure out what am I doing that's not quite um, in line with my true mission or my true goals. But finally, take action. And I want to talk a little bit about failure. In order to take action, we have to fail. That's reality. You know, None of the things that I've ever done have actually, um, all of them were basically at some point a failure at some level. And here are some really great examples of failure. So, Slack is a great communication tool. Anyone here use Slack? Show of hands. Slack is a great communication tool for teams to collaborate on. And those of you might not know, but Slack actually started off, the company who started Slack started off building a game, a computer game. Well, the computer game was a complete failure, and it didn't even see the light of day. But the team created this communication tool so they could work on this game. Well, the communication tool was pretty good, and the truth is, Slack at the time when I made this was valued at 7 billion or more in terms of a financial evaluation. And just most recently, it was acquired by Salesforce. So the company that started off making a video game completely failed in the video game business, but they rode home in the communications business, right? Creating one of the most powerful and useful tools that I know I use every single day now. So Slack was sold to Salesforce for probably $1.5 billion, and is one of the most important communication tools, especially during COVID, where everyone's working remote. Like tools like Zoom and Slack have obviously like skyrocketed, right? So you got to be in the water. You got to be in the water in order to catch a wave. So in order to do that, you have to first sometimes understand that some things are failures. They're failures because they have to be failures. In order for them to be failures, you're going to find the true purpose that you were meant to be. Now, the next thing I want to share with you is a great talk by Barbara Corcoran. Unfortunately, I can't stream this because we're streaming, but go to YouTube and search for "Rethinking Failure" by Barbara Corcoran. Please watch this at your own time. She talks about how her entire real estate empire and her ability to get on Shark Tank was based on failure. She once purchased all these videotapes that she put her real estate listings on and put her clients' numbers on. No one wanted to use them because her real estate agent's phone numbers were on them. So the other real estate agents didn't want to pass them out. So she spent $40,000 on these videotapes. But what she didn't realize is that the internet just became this thing. So she took all those videotapes, put them on the internet, and sold listings online. And basically, that launched her entire real estate empire. She's now a shark on Shark Tank, right? So that one pivotal moment of failure turned into her empire. So well worth a bad investment, in my opinion. All right, and most importantly, to wrap this up, everyone from Michelangelo, who painted the Sixtine Chapel, to Ben Franklin, our $100 bill founding father, Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens, Thomas Edison, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, Taylor Swift, Lin-Manuel Miranda from Hamilton, the play. Look, everyone here is a fantastic group of people. But most importantly, what's different from all of them than us? Or maybe if you're stuck, what's different from them than you? They didn't ask for permission. That they just went out and did this. They did it. They didn't ask anyone. They didn't care what other people thought. They went out there. They failed forward, and they made it happen. And ultimately, that's uh, my credo to you. What is it to me to set up Creative Year Ever? Who am I? Who am I to do Creative Year Ever? Right? I don't really care if you think who I am. I'm going to do this because I want to do it. And I don't really ask for permission. I did it, and I'm happy I did it. I'm happy you're here with me today to celebrate 2021 and to celebrate our most creative self. And just like every one of these people, I don't really care what you think. Either you love it or you hate it. And a lot of people came to me and said, "Hey, why are you doing it the second weekend of the year?" You know why? Either you get it or you don't. So, I thank you all for getting it and being here with me. And I think that this is a great way to launch the one of the most important weekends of the year. Like literally, this is the most important weekend of the year if you want to set your intentions straight. Right, the first weekend of the year. I appreciate you spending time with me today to do that. And finally, those of you know that I have a. It's called the Power of Creative Focus. This is my little acronym that I created one time. I was actually out every year. My wife and I go to Ohio to spend time with my in-laws. So I was out in the middle of nowhere. I had some intentional space in my mind that day, right? I had some intentional space in my world, and I came up with this acronym, the Power of Creative Focus, F-O.C.U.S. F stands for full responsibility, right? You have to take full responsibility for your actions or inactions. Understanding that you are 100% responsible for your life and 100% in control of it, which is awesome. We live in the United States of America, the one country that we can make as unlimited amounts of money as we want, which is amazing. Your creativity is only a product of you. Your success will only happen if you're willing to take full responsibility for it and devote the time to make it happen. Don't let your ego get in the way. Ego is a killer. I hate ego. Ego is a killer, and ultimately, you are uniquely you, and only you can do what you were sent here to do. So don't worry about other people. If you think other people are doing what you should be doing, so what? I always like to use the example. There's the Food Network, right? The Food Network has how many different chefs on the Food Network, and they all do what? The same thing. So just go out and create your own content. You know what? The world will find you uniquely you. I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to go kind of quick, guys. So organization, strive for your best self, organize yourself, your self-discipline, organize your mind, your thoughts by journaling and meditation. Make organized goals and deliver on your ideas and act on them. And establish a process for communicating between your team and stakeholders. Organize your thoughts, your ideas onto paper and share those papers with people who get it, right? Obviously, an architect might have a vision for a building, but the architect's vision for that building is no good until he puts it into what? Blueprints, right? You have to show the world what you want to build. And when you show the world what you want to build, the world will come and deliver you with the right people. The center of it all, you have to create. Create is the C is in the center. You got to create more than you consume. Don't wait until the right time. Do it right now. And finally, unwavering faith. You have to have faith that success will happen for you in the right way, and that you have the opportunity to move the needle every single day. You must maintain this faith in yourself, and the universe has got your back. And know that only your efforts will lead to success, and that you are 100% committed to all outcomes, and that failure does not exist, and that you are out there to take calculated risks in order to get out of your comfort zone, right? And finally, sustainability. You have to have a way to make money doing what you're doing. And that's one thing I like to share in my book called The Digital Acquisition Cycle for Content Creators. I had a blog. The blog was great, but I wasn't making a ton of money doing it. It wasn't sustainable, right? So in this book, I wrote down how to create a blog and make money doing it, right? The sustainable marketing system that's going to help you achieve more than you can ever achieve. Be sure to have the right people to help you along the way. Hire the right people to help you get it done, and to build accountability with other creatives who will help you go beyond, above and beyond. So thank you all for listening to this presentation. I'm going to give away a free VIP ticket right now. And while I'm doing that, feel free to let me know if you guys have any questions.
Scott, I have a question.
Yes.
So when you do your journaling, do you do it like on paper, like pen and paper? Do you type it? Like, do you find that there's a difference, like how you're journaling?
That's a great question, Stephanie. You know what? I use an app called Day One for the Mac. So I have a digital journal, if you will. But some people do like print journal, like an actual physical journal. I have a hard time doing that. I like to type. I type a lot faster than I can write, so I prefer a digital journal.
Yeah. Thanks for that app suggestion, because that's one thing I've noticed over time. Like, now I was trying to write more, and I've noticed like my handwriting has gotten terrible. Like,
Yeah.
like my hand doesn't work the same anymore because I haven't used it.
Right. All right, well, so we're going to give away a free VIP ticket. For those of you who are watching on the Facebook live stream, let's see here. I'm going to type it in. All right, Raina Rooney, you just won a free VIP ticket. I'll send it, email us at team@contentacademy.com if you're still watching. and we'll get you hooked up into the VIP live stream here. So thank you all for watching the Power of Creative Focus. I'm super stoked to welcome. I need to stop sharing here. I'm super stoked to welcome Stephanie Ganzi as our next speaker. She's going to talk about leadership and goals, and I can't wait to have her on. We've got a little bit of about a 4-minute break here, so I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back in just a little bit.